Shalom, good evening for anyone in my side of the globe, and good afternoon for anyone in that side of the globe, which I'll explain in a minute. Um, my name is Dr. Tova Goldfein. I'm streaming live from Israel, originally from Philadelphia, but living and working now in Israel. Rose won't be with us tonight, but we send her love and blessings, and we'll meet up with her soon. I'm here with my guest from California, West Coast America. So it's 12 o'clock your time, right? Okay.
Yes, 12 o'clock.
So actually, Rose met Sipora Weissman. Rose, let me just bring your name up here. 1 second. Rose, I think found you. Um, she found you because you were writing something about lupus or not lupus, it was Lyme disease, something about that. And she's like a hawk. She finds it and she's like, and you wrote back that you'd like to be a guest, and then you had actually some interesting healing stories that kind of makes me I love interviewing and having guests that are coaches and social workers. This is wonderful, but to have a healing story, it brings it to it just makes it more real. And I happen to think you're going to be a better healer in some ways because of that. You're in the process, you're in the journey. So, Sipora Weissman, you are you have a master's of social work. You're also just about to become a clinical social worker, which is just the labels. And you're working with people, but you have recovered and are in recovery from chronic fatigue syndrome, which is really, it's really, really an enormous empathy. And pelvic pain, I mean, from my experience, the last 4 or 5 years on the internet, seeing how many people are suffering from everything from A to Z under pelvic pain. So I'm so happy, number one, that you're healing. Your body's strong, you're sensitive, and I'm happy that you joined me today. And so I'd love to hear your story, like a time, kind of like a timeline. And let's interact and talk. And anyone out there that's listening, feel free to ask any questions. So go ahead, tell us from the beginning, maybe when you kind of knew something was going on in your body. I mean, tell us from the beginning. Maybe as a
Yeah.
child.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me on, by the way. It's really cool to be here. Yeah. Um, yeah, I think these mind body, as I call them, mind body syndromes, you can call them TMS, PPD. I think there's a lot of labels of them. Um, they do kind of launch people on these journeys of not just like healing the syndrome, which for me, chronic fatigue and pelvic pain, it's basically healing your life a bit too. It's a yes, it launches you really quickly on a life healing journey. So I'm 41 years old now, and I'm a therapist in the United States, and I see clients. But yeah, my journey kind of started. I mean, my journey started when I was born, but my chronic,
Maybe before.
maybe before,
Maybe.
right? Probably before too. But my chronic illness story, basically, I I wanted to be a social worker when I went to college for my bachelor's degree. And I was, I guess, 19 years old because I grew up seeing therapists and they were social workers. So, and that was always really important to me. So I said, I want to be a social worker. And I went to college and I took a social work class and I said, nope, I'm not doing this. I'm going to be a TV producer. So I went to school and I learned to be a TV producer, and I worked really hard and I was passionate about it. And I worked in New York. I'm from New York, so I worked in New York City. And I guess halfway through my career in my, I guess, mid-late 20s, one day I woke up and I was tired. And I went to my doctor, as most people do, and I said, what's going on? And he tested me. He said, you don't have mono, you don't have this, you know. So I went home and I went to work exhausted, and I went home and I'd go to sleep, go to work, go to sleep. And, you know, and in 2 months I was kind of back to my normal self again. And I was like, okay, whatever, you know. And then I moved, which was really stressful for me. And I was very stressed out, and all of a sudden the fatigue came back again. And that time I was like, okay, something weird is going on here. What is this? You know? And I just remember, like, I could barely walk to the subway. Like I could barely walk to the subway. I'd have to sit down. Like it was horrible. And I, you know, went to a doctor that specialized in chronic fatigue syndrome in New York City, and there's not a lot. And she said, I think you have this, Sipora. She said, I think you have chronic fatigue syndrome. And I just broke down in her office crying, because what I knew from online at that time in my 20s was, you're stuck with this for the rest of your life. You're like, that's it. You're done, right? Your life is basically
not
over,
true,
you know,
not
right,
true,
right?
But that's what people
right.
believe.
That's what I saw, you know. And then I went to, you know, and I had a lot of like, if I did too much, I would get exhausted again, you know, and it would last for months. And my story, a lot of people with chronic fatigue, they get some sort of, like, they get mono, or they get a virus, and then they're just shot down. My story is, like, I had a lot of I'd get an episode which would last like 3 months, and then I'd come back, and then stress or life would come, and then so it was just this roller coaster. And I went to in New York City, a support group for people with chronic fatigue syndrome, and honestly, it was like the most depressing thing I've ever done in my life. It was all these people, and they're like, oh, we're on disability. It was, you know, and I feel for all those people, you know. I feel for myself back then too, you know. But I left that place, that support group, and I said, I can't do this. And I started searching online, and there was no Instagram then. Facebook was not like it is today. But I started finding people that have healed from chronic fatigue syndrome, and people had written books, and I started reading books. And I think I read a Sarno book back then, you know, and I found there was a self-help program called the Gupta program, and it's still around today. And it was all about retraining your brain, you know, and it's a lot of the stuff that, you know, Alan Gordon, LCSW, talks about in pain reprocessing therapy, you know, fearing symptoms, all that stuff. So that's when I kind of launched myself on, like, I got to heal from this, and people can heal. Yeah. And then, of course, a few years later, I got Vulvodynia, which all makes sense to me. You know, it's like so
you healed it, and then something else came, because I
didn't heal from chronic fatigue. I still had it, but then you just add on another, like, horrible syndrome, right? So I had Vulvodynia, and again, go to the doctor, and they're like, I don't know what to do, you know, sorry, you know. And I saw.
Did you think that maybe, in other words, but here you took this Gupta program, but you figured, like, oh, I figured it out. I got it. I don't have to do anything else. My brain's retrained, and I figured it out.
I think I was in my late 20s or early 30s, and I think I was very anxious. I was very not aware of myself even, you know. I think everybody has their own journey of this stuff, and while I was learning a lot, I still was in it. I was still in it, you know.
Can I ask you a personal question? And you don't have to answer it completely, but you said, I grew up going to therapy.
Yes.
So I mean, I know my mom took me to therapy when I was 11, 12, and 13, and then I started to understand. So I saw it as something I can now use to serve me, not like something that's wrong with me. I understood. So obviously there was like, whether it was your family or whether it was your expression, but obviously growing up, you were, you didn't express, you expressed too much. Like, did you, at this point, after you took the brain retraining program from Gupta, did you think there was some emotional thing connected, something with feelings? Like, what were you thinking regarding the feelings and the brain?
Yeah. So it's funny because I read a Sarno book. I think it was like the MindBody one.
Yeah.
But I didn't connect to it back then because he talked about rage, this underlying, we have his big emotion was rage. And I'm like, I don't have rage. But if you fast forward to today, there's a doctor, and I'm not sure if I'm going to pronounce his name. I'm sure you know, David Hanscom. I'm not sure if you pronounce.
Yes.
That's how you pronounce.
Dr. David Hanscom. I like study with him, and like I abide by a lot of his. I just want to say on the record, he's been on the show a few times.
Yeah.
He's amazing, and he said to me, Tova, let's change the word mind body to threat safety. Mm-hmm. And I was like, whoa. I mean, like it definitely is important, and so I'm happy. So you found him, and then what?
So I mean, he's like this. I haven't actually talked to him, but we've emailed, and he's just I could tell there's so many nice people in this world, right? Of this healing world. And he had this video about anxiety. I think it's like anxiety is the root of chronic pain, right? And that relates to me, right? And because I'm, an anxious person, not a rageful person. I think I have anger.
You're sensitive. You're a sensitive person that gets excited, that maybe reacts. I mean, it's not a anxiety is a bad thing. It's how we use it to hurt us or to serve us. So go ahead. But you felt like you connected.
Yes, I connected with that. And I mean, I've learned that there's a range of emotions under this stuff, from rage to anxiety to sadness to guilt to there's just, there's all these for all, the clients I work with. It's just, it's different for everyone. But yes, there is this underlying, I think there's a lot of anxiety. And what I believe is, like you said, I've been in therapy my whole life as a child because I had complex trauma. And I have learned that these syndromes are a lot of this nervous system dysregulation, right? If we're living in a state of flight, fight, freeze for years, our body is just pumping those stress chemicals out and the body can't handle it, right? So there's a lot of this nerve, I've done a lot of somatic training. I'm training in somatic experiencing right now in my final year. And it's, that's what I've learned, is that a history of being scared as a child, right? You're primed as a kid with trauma and stress and death and fear. And as an adult, you're gonna, it hits you, but you're not, what I've learned is you're not stuck that way. You're not stuck. You can heal these things, but it does take an effort to unwind a history of feeling unsafe,
Yes. So it's also, I read two things recently. I mean, like I'm always quoting this on like every show. I always quote, Dr. Gabriel Maté, where it's your experience of the trauma. It's not the trauma. And that trauma is you can respond to the memory and heal it by it's a relationship with the past. Mm-hmm. And if you're living in the past, it doesn't help you. It doesn't serve you. We can accept it. We can embrace it. Dr. Clark talks about just be a butterfly on the wall of your childhood. And that's going back there. And I love the reparenting work. I think we have to reparent ourselves.
Yep.
And I think this is the greatest gift we could give to ourselves, which is self-love. And Hanscom's words are, love is awareness, and awareness is mindfulness, and mindfulness is calming the brain down. I mean, he goes right back to the threat safety. You know, and we did a couple of shows with him around the Love Heals movie, which I brought to Israel and helped get the subtitles. I'm blown away by that movie, Love Heals. It was really an incredible, incredible film about the power of love, which is not like Woodstock. It's more like love is awareness, and awareness is mindfulness, and mindfulness is calming the brain. And when you calm the brain, you're more in your parasympathetic nervous system. So I like the Eastern way and I like the Western way, but it's together. It's integrated. It's both. So go ahead. So I went off on a tangent, which I'm
Yes, it's okay.
Not here. But what happened? Where was I?
Yeah, so I said the pelvic pain stuff. Yeah, so I then got the pelvic pain, and for me it was, you know, I've had a lot of clients that I see with pelvic pain too, and it was, for me, it was like humiliating. I had to go to, you know, physical therapy, you know, and, you know, it was just, it was horrible. It was pain. It was horrible burning pain in your pelvic region. I mean, you know, it was just terrible. And I guess it's just, you know, now I can connect this all too. It's just what they call, oh my God, I'm going blank. Central sensitization syndrome, when you're just so sensitized that like all these syndromes come out. You know, I had anxiety, fatigue, pelvic pain, but yeah, I think the pelvic pain, so that's when I started to use a lot of these mind body techniques, and the pelvic pain is basically gone for me. It's basically
so wait,
gone.
You got the pelvic pain and then you found Dr. Hanscom. That's when I interrupted.
No. Dr. Hanscom was actually like in the last year or so that
okay.
So
what did you do? What were the nuts and bolts, if you would share with the listeners, of what you did all along? As you're getting these symptoms, you're noticing that they're a reflection of something psychological. Your symptoms are real for sure. And you began to look, you're able to calm the chronic fatigue and at least put that at bay. And then you needed to uncover something deeper. So the pelvic pain came. So what were you doing all along, which was not managing, but healing yourself? What were you doing?
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, I did do the whole, you have to do vaginal dilators. I did that, you know, I did the whole physical therapy thing too. But for me, it was really when the symptoms came up, I had to, you know, not fear the symptoms and not buy into the symptoms and really kind of like, you know, calm down. I did a lot of meditation.
You're having burning in a very sensitive area, and you say, you give yourself a choice to respond. Go ahead, and then tell us.
Yes, yeah, it's, you know, and I learned that from a lot of the brain retraining stuff, and further down the line, I learned more from Dr. Howard Schubner in professional trainings, which I use for myself too. It's, you know, if we have this symptom, and if we start to freak out and panic about it, it's just sending, you know, the brain starts to say, uh-oh, there's something wrong, right? The more fear we put into these things, then the brain goes, uh-oh, there's something wrong. So I'm going to have to put more symptoms out because you need to go fix this because there's something wrong. But there's nothing wrong. There was nothing wrong. It was just like this feedback loop going through my brain. So I had to really go, I'm okay in this moment, you know, I'm okay, and it will pass. And I think it's funny because with the pelvic pain, it was clear. And then I think it was like 4 years later, I started having issues down there. And I said, uh-oh, there's something wrong. There's something wrong. I have an infection. And I went to the doctor and she's like, there's nothing wrong, Sipora. And I'm like, nope, there's something wrong. Went to another doctor and he's like, And then I learned it was a different sensation I was getting down there. It wasn't the pain, it was like these other weird sensations. And then I learned that, oh, that's another symptom of vulvodynia. And once my brain, I'm serious, once my brain connected, oh, this is mind body, within 1 week, those symptoms were gone. Once I realized, like, I stopped like having that fear that, oh no, there's something physically wrong with me. And this is another symptom of mind body. Gone. Wow. So, you know, and I know a lot of people that they just, when they learn that their symptom is mind body, it's like, or they read the book, they get the book cure, you know, they read Sarno and they get the book cure and their symptoms just go away just by knowing that this is coming from my brain. So yeah, so that's kind of my, you know, my story with vulvodynia, but I have a lot of compassion for people, for women, you know, that deal with this stuff. Because it sucks. It sucks. It really sucks, you know, but, you know,
what's your suggestion? What's your suggestion? But I went out for a minute. My internet's, yeah. What's your suggestion about, look, we can intellectually, okay, I'm fearing it, but the pain is really strong. I don't know how to calm down. But I understand it intellectually. You know, I know I have to breathe, but I, you know, like the you know, and I, like I say to people, smoke a cigarette if you have to, just do what you need to do to calm yourself down, but keep working on keep working on the cause, keep working on the fire. So I'm not against anything to calm down, but what if nothing calms the person down because they're in that fight and flight? They're in the hypervigilant space. Their central sensitization or predictive coding is, I'm freaking out, and this is it's not going to change. So I'm relentless about helping people like that because everyone can be helped and anything's possible. So tell me how you would address some of the more sensitive people that are resisting? And
yeah, I mean, I think so. Looking back at my story, and I'm still a bit this way today, and I'm still working on myself in this process, but it wasn't just the pelvic pain that was like the big thing in my life. I had like relationship issues. I was dealing with a lot of my own anxiety issues, a lot of perfectionism issues, like, you know, that were just driving my stress response. So it's like a whole encompassing life thing. So I think it's, well, one, you have to look at your life too. You have to, it's not just like the pelvic pain. It's just the pelvic pain is like this little tiny thing, right? The real thing is what's going on in your life, or what happened in your childhood that is making you so stressed today. And it's addressing those are the issues. That's the real issues, right? What's the trauma or what's going on in your life today that is making you dysregulated. So I think that is a huge piece. But, you know, I then, you know, I was working in TV. I moved to California and I said, this is not fulfilling me anymore, this career. And, you know, I've been working on this healing stuff for a long time. You know, I'm really interested in the brain, how the brain works, about trauma. And I said, I think I'm going to go back to my true calling, which was to be a social worker. You know, so, which is funny because you know, was what I wanted to do when I was younger. And I went back, I got my master's degree, which was really, you know, in my mid 30s, you know, it's like you know, but a very close girlfriend of mine, who's also a mind body therapist and coach, she said to me, oh, there's this seminar in Michigan by this guy, Dr. Howard Schubner. would you like to go? It's a professional seminar. And I said, yeah. I've never been to Michigan. So we went to Michigan, and it was like a 2 or 3 day seminar with Dr. Howard Schupner, who is the nicest man in the whole entire world. I just have to say, this man, my goodness, this man is the nicest man. So it was him, Alan Gordon, Christy, I'm going to say her name wrong, but yeah, and it was just like, boom, wow, learning even more about like chronic pain, central sensitivity, all these issues. And, we learned about somatic tracking, which is another way of teaching your brain that to not have fear over these symptoms, right? So what I tell my clients is, most people, when they have pain, they want to avoid it. Let's get rid of it. We have to get rid of it. We have to avoid it, which tells your brain that, there's something wrong here. There's something wrong. We have to get rid of it. But so somatic tracking is that we can pay attention to the pain. We could be curious about the pain. We could be with the pain, which sends messages of safety to your brain, which then your brain says, okay, there's nothing wrong here. So we can get rid of the pain. So that was another key, to the vulvodynia for me also.
Great. So the interesting thing is you're in the career of your choice, and you're not beating yourself up or bullying yourself. Well, I'm doing everything I want now. Why? But I still have symptoms. So you understand that the symptoms or the sensations are representing sometimes repressed feelings, which we all still do, or the brain is still perceiving a threat because rather than I'm having anxiety because I'm crossing the street, at the green light or the red light, I'm having anxiety because I'm nervous about crossing. Like, it's like I see that you've accepted, you've understood, you've honored that this is a process. You're patient with yourself, and the symptoms are normal variants of your pelvis or of your neck or of your back, or, so I think, again, it's great that your body has been so responsive. I know there are people that are listening who are not getting relief, and are 24/7, but I still know it's neuroplastic pain. And Gordon, you'll even say, all these things are equal neuroplastic, and everything has a neuroplastic component to it, especially if it's chronic. And I'm out there saying, because I think when we're looking for the reduction of symptoms or the symptoms to be gone, that's another part of the pressure. And of course, pain means something's wrong. Pain means danger. But this is neuroplastic pain. It's your brain, and there's a habit, and there's predictive coding, and then there's this condition response. And I think it's if all of us could just keep understanding the brain, the relationship to ourselves, as you said. So very few people really want to accept that. It's really about learning about themselves. I mean, this is a biggie. This is a biggie. It's a big wake up call. But it is just so profound. It is so profound. It is so.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of clients that come to me and I have this with chronic pain. I have this syndrome. I have this chronic pain, and they're like, I gotta heal this. I gotta heal this thing, and they're so focused on their symptom. They're so focused on it, and I say, what's going on in your life, right? What's chronic pain, and I think these syndromes, fatigue, POTS, all these weird syndromes, they can be distractors. They can distract us. And I say, okay, what's going on in your life? Oh, I'm actually miserable in my career. I'm really, really miserable. And I say, oh, So, it's like so you're so focused on your pain, but like, what's like the elephant in the room is that you're miserable in your life. So let's try to fix that, so it's interesting too.
No, it's very good.
Yeah.
It's very good. The distraction. I love that because it just reminded me of Steve Osnick's the pain deception. Like it's distraction. And the people who are not getting, I think on the record, I know a very close patient of mine who I love dearly, and she's probably listening. She doesn't get a whole lot of relief, but she's so intelligent. These people are smart, intelligent. They're I always say it's like they're as smart, as strong as the symptoms are. That's the level of resistance, and like the game. That's the game. Like if you can just view that, witness that, and see the distraction, and that if you were to visit yourself, it wouldn't be as scary as you think, and that and they'll even say, "Yeah, doc, I know that." So it's easier said than done. But if they're normal, it's like this concept about our new normal needs to be abnormal. Our new comfort zone needs to be discomfort. And this is what I want to say. If they're having more symptoms, they're not dealing with they're distracted, right? So and this is the place of like, some people will be, well, I can't deal with my anxiety, I'll take the symptoms. And it kind of is it one or the other, or is it one or the other?
Sometimes it's both. So I think a lot of times it's both,
and you can have symptoms and anxiety and live a quality life. That's what we're saying.
No,
it's not.
No. But I think, I felt this pressure. I think in this mind-body healing world, and I'm very much a part of it, and I pay a lot of attention. And there's a lot of people that heal, right? So, and then there's a lot of people that are still suffering, and we feel this pressure to, why am I not healing? These people healed, or they had. I see these stories. I had chronic fatigue syndrome for like 1 to 2 years, and then I did these things, and I healed myself. And I still am healing from chronic fatigue. But what I think, where it gets complicated for people, this is my belief, is the complex trauma history. Is when there's people with these histories of complex trauma. Like I said, there is a lot of dysregulation in the nervous system. And so a woman that I recently, there's a program that I actually really love and recommend to people. It's called Primal Trust. It's by this woman, Dr. Cat, and she is so inspiring, this woman. She was hit down with Lyme's disease, with all these illnesses. She was bedbound, and she healed herself, and she created this program. But she talks about she had like horrible trauma during her childhood, and it's like, it's not just our thoughts we have to work with. It's our body sensations. It's the somatic. It's the trauma healing, right? That has to happen too. It's the awareness of how we react to life, right? And that's a big part of the healing. And that's where I'm at too, where I realized over the last few years is that, like, I get better from chronic fatigue. I get better. I forget I have it. I go back to life. But all those qualities, the type A, the stress, all that stuff comes in to like level 100, and then I go down again. And I have realized it. I go into those states because of dysregulation and because of a history of complex trauma. And I'm aware of it now. And that's where I am putting my effort in right now, is to working on that stuff. And it takes effort. It takes an effort to heal from this stuff. It really does.
Okay, but we're not victims.
No.
Of the trauma.
No,
you know, right?
no,
So, and we're not blaming anyone, and we're not, you know,
no,
there's no one to
no,
blame. There's like a way of like,
no.
so are you look, some of the research, some of the work is like, you know, the Gabriel Mate work, some of it's the, you know, brain work, some of it's the
Mm-hmm.
somatic work.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, if we can integrate
Mm-hmm.
the little girl into the adult, if we can
Mm-hmm.
understand the players
Yep.
that, you know, because, you know, we can sort of objectify. It's hard for me, but because like even Clark, like all the people he saw they all had trauma.
Yep.
So but people can make a choice. They
Yep.
can make a choice that suffering is optional. They don't have to suffer. And I think sometimes Rose will be really harsh. Was, you know, and Rose is an ISCDP therapist, and she's amazing. She's helped a
Okay.
lot of people, and I love ISCDP. She'll be like, "What's it doing for you? What are you getting from it?" And this is with love. Like, how's it serving you? Because we can learn more new habits. We can learn to be resilient.
Mm-hmm.
We can learn to
Mm-hmm.
separate. There's
Mm-hmm.
me, and there's my trauma.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like
Mm-hmm.
with the Eckhart Tolle work, it's like you're not, you know, you're not your pain. There's the pain body, and then there's
No,
you.
no.
So
Yes. Yep.
we can use our brain to
Mm-hmm.
logically, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and so I don't, I mean, I know it doesn't come out right when you say to someone, so what's it doing for you?
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, F you, doc. Like, what do you mean what's
Mm-hmm.
doing for you? Like, I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
no, but like, let's, so then we're back to the relationship with themselves.
Mm-hmm.
How can they serve themselves? How can they lift themselves up? And some people, Rose, we have a new thing now. We're talking about like the will. I want to get better. I'm going to get better. Nothing's going to stop me. Success is inevitable.
Mm-hmm.
Because
I mean,
that's the level of pain. Like,
mm-hmm.
and somebody was on our show years ago. She's called Knockout Wellness. Knockout Wellness. And I'm like, okay. And Sipora will say, if you can say to your brain, enough. You can say to your brain, enough. All right, enough now. Like, you can not bully, but he'll say it in his book. Like, you can be firm with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And this wonderful woman who's, I know, struggling a bit, she's now doing a little better because she's visualizing. You know, she wakes up in the morning, she
Mm-hmm.
visualizes herself. So this is another
Mm-hmm.
brain game,
Yep.
and another
Yep.
way
Yep.
to predict your future, which
Mm-hmm.
I love the Joe Dispenza work.
Yes.
It goes
Yes.
to hand in hand with it.
Yep.
You know, predict your future by taking 2 minutes a day. So here's some insights. 2 minutes a day, wake up, set your intention by writing them or just even verbalizing them.
Mm-hmm.
I like to say, look in the mirror and say, I love you. And people, it's like, I know it's not easy, but just do it. I mean, you know, it because your unconscious mind will believe it. Like, your conscious mind will believe it. Like, you know, because of the you know, if you imagine your brain doesn't believe, what is it? If you imagine, visualize, your brain doesn't believe, thinks it's
Mm-hmm.
true. Your brain thinks it's true.
Right. Well, there's all this. There's studies on like neuroplasticity, right? That's how the brain can change, and there are studies that just visualizing doing something, which is also called mental rehearsal. A lot of sports players do it. They visualize themselves. They visualize themselves.
I like that.
You know,
Mental rehearsal.
yeah,
I like that.
yeah. You know, a lot. It's not exactly the same in the brain as you're doing the same thing. You know, because you're just thinking about it. But a lot of those brain areas light up like you are doing it. Like you are shooting the ball, right?
It.
So there are studies on it. So visualization is a cool thing, is an important thing. I tell my clients to do it. I do it myself, you know, a lot, you know, visualizing, you know, the person, who do you want to be, right? You know, that your health,
Right.
being healthy, and the brain learns that, neuroplasticity, which is really, the work of Norman Doidge,
Right.
which is super cool, right?
Amazing. So Dispenza will say to get up every day and for 2 minutes, sit for a minute, like, you could do it throughout the day and visualize how your day is going to be. I like the idea of writing it down, having an intention. Some researchers say, well, you want to have a good morning, prepare the night before. I even love that, like prep the night before. So it's mindfulness, it's awareness, it's attention, it's all these things, and it becomes a habit. You don't have to like get up in the morning and like write, like it will, this will become a habit. I think this is the people that have, dived into the work, and it's like, can I stop doing the work, doc? And I'm like, it just becomes easier, right? Sipora, it becomes easier. And sometimes you can't wait to get to your meditation. Like you're going to find that it's your new normal. It's your new,
I think it's important to have a daily practice for sure, but as a busy person who I am, and so I relate to other busy people. I heard something, I think it was from Ram Dass. I was listening to a podcast, and he said something really important. He said, if you don't have time to sit and meditate, he said, let your day be your practice. Let your day be your practice. And and what I tell people, my clients, is like, can you be aware of how can you have self-awareness when you are like at the computer getting stressed all day? Can you stop and like notice that? And can you maybe like, do a self hold, put your hand on your heart, and just for like 2 minutes, breathe, take a few deep breaths, look outside, look at a tree, look at some flowers, like come back to the present moment, regulate yourself, even if it's just for a moment or two, it's that self-awareness, because if we are grinding all day, what is that doing to us, So I think that's important too. I think these, obviously a daily practice, but then it's just also let your day be your practice. Go about your day. And that's the great thing about visualization and intentions. It's like, how do I want to show up? How do I want to show up today? How do I want to show up in this world today? Do I want to be like stressed out, busy, go, go, go? Or can I be in that like flow state? Can I show up in that and be in the flow, Yeah.
Right. And when you can't get into the flow, forgive that. And if you can't do that, then love that. If you can't do that, then just try it again tomorrow.
Yes, you can't beat yourself up. Look, all we could do is our best. This is hard stuff. It's tough stuff. And I know a lot of people are, it's like the medical system, right? They want the medical system to help them. And I get it. Like, I get it. And I feel for people dealing with this stuff. I hope one day there's a pill we could take or something that could cure chronic fatigue syndrome. I hope there's better options out there, but I'm also, so grateful for people like Howard Schubner or, Dr. Hanscom and Alan Gordon, that it's like, it's like this, it's we got to work on ourselves, we can work on ourselves.
Yeah, and I have to say that there is a pill. It's, we have an entire pharmacy inside of us. I mean, a deep breath that, affects the diaphragm, activates the vagus nerve, can affect your parasympathetic nervous system, can make heroin, cocaine, cannabis, forget even oxytocin and endorphins. I mean, we have that ability, and I think if we could just keep educating, I think that's the purpose of the show. Is just to keep educating and inspiring and drawing, like healing one person at a time, and more doctors and more people are understanding. I mean, no doctor will deny the mind body's connected. Nobody will
Mhm.
deny that. But no, I just think you're not going to hear from your doctor. I think it's important that, you go into your doctor as an educated patient. In the PBDA resources, there's a letter that the patient can bring to their doctor and say, look, I want you to work with me and my mind body.
Mhm.
And I think there are more and more doctors open to it.
They're
especially
opening, but unfortunately, I think a lot of doctors are like, here's a pill to help your pain or to make it go here. Let's do surgery. Let's give you a shot. There's still that instant fix, and that's not it, because a lot of these things don't help.
Right.
People go through these surgeries.
And some people, they do help, and they're not listening to our show.
Some
Because
people,
some people
they do
it
help.
helps.
Sure.
But it's not. It's surely like, I was with the client tonight, and like, because occasionally I still do chiropractic. I'm like, something moved, you're in pain.
Yes.
Why wouldn't we want to move it back? Why would I want to give you an anti-inflammatory? Why wouldn't I want to move it back if it was something structural? And yet it just makes sense. But again, we've gotten into a fix it. If it's broken, like, don't wait till, we're way away from like what's really happening in the fire rather than the smoke. And this is why we all love Eastern philosophy and Eastern medicine, which is, well care, health care, like well care, wellness care, as opposed to sick care. And so we're not going to fly that flag. I'm not going to protest. I'm not burning any bras here. We're just one patient at a time, one client at a time. And I'm just really happy Rose found you. Your
Oh, I guess I should talk about my. She asked me about the Lyme's disease.
I guess I'll do a quick about that. Yes.
I'll do a quick mention of it, and it's in my 20s on my chronic fatigue journey, I saw a great doctor, and he's awesome, really smart man in New York City. But the big thing back then was, oh, you might have Lyme's disease. You have Lyme's disease, and they test you with these labs. There's these like independent laboratories, and it's like, and you'll get back titers. Oh, there's a titer coming back, or for a co-infection, or for this, or for that. And at the time, I was so desperate. I was honestly, I said, just put the IV in me and give me the antibiotics. I just help me. And I think my father said, Sipora, please don't do that, and I know a lot of people that have started at, I have Lyme's disease, and then they realize, oh, this was a mind-body thing, and so I think you have to be careful. I mean, sure, there are people with Lyme's disease, obviously, and you have to be very careful, but a lot of this chronic stuff that keeps on going on, when I started to connect the dots of my life, that my things that happened to me in my 20s and my childhood, that this is a mind-body syndrome. This is a dysregulated nervous system. This is a sensitized system that's going on. It's not Lyme's disease. This is a mind-body thing. So that's, but yeah, you go to a lot of holistic practitioners, and they'll give you like $200 worth of supplements to cure the Lyme's disease, right? And then you're just, it's complicated. It's a complicated thing, and everybody goes through their own journey, with this stuff. They really do.
Well, it's about your immune system, and we're back to the immune system. We're back to talking about the strength of your immune system, which is affected to your nervous system and your hormones. So I'm just seeing. Right. Have you ever spoken to Rita? I don't think, no, because chronic fatigue, that was, what's her name? She's out in California also. What's her name? The one woman who heals from chronic fatigue, who was on our show. But anyway, I'm blanking on her name, but Rita, Rita healed herself from CRPS. And this is what she writes. I went down the Lyme rabbit hole too. Tested positive for 3 bands or some such nonsense. and I took copious amounts of antibiotics. Oh my God. Chronic Lyme is made up of a label, according to Dr. Schubiner and many others. Well, yeah, you see, I think Lyme people get better from Lyme because they get better. And if not, it's like the long COVID. It's
right.
the same.
It's like long COVID.
And
Exactly.
again, it's horrible and it's terrible, but I know that the antibiotics and a mind body, like I'm all about the steroid and the mind body. Like,
yeah, for sure.
Keep taking antibiotics, but understand there's a relationship with your body. There's now health anxiety, which we have to look at, and healing can happen. And I know
as I tell my clients, you know, when you're running from the bear or the tiger, when you are all your energy, it's, you know, all you need is to survive. Your immune system goes down, your digestion goes down, like all those things, you know, you just need, it's just survival. And now the bear is work, you know, family life, stress. So it's when we're living in that constant stress, you know, our immune system goes down. So all the bugs and stuff do come up for sure. So there is that, you know,
I want to write this. What did Ram Dass say in that tape about your day is your meditation? Because
let your day be your practice. You know, let your day be your practice.
Because I like to say that every breath is a meditative moment. Every breath is an opportunity to stop and be mindful. You know, a patient said to me a few weeks ago, I'm always finding myself in the future. I'm like, that's a mindful moment. You're aware that you're in the future. So that's you being mindful. Don't judge yourself. Who doesn't do that?
That's awareness. That's
so
awareness.
Let your day be your practice.
Yeah. It's like if you don't have the time to sit on the mat, let your day be your practice. Go, you know, and I say it's just like that flow. Can you be in the flow state? I'm all about like, let's flow, be in the flow state. Yeah. You know,
or just know that your ebb is coming, your flow is coming. You know, where do we find the darkness? Where do we find the light? In the cracks of the darkness. In honor of Leonard Cohen. Anyway, we have a number of people watching. I don't think anyone's so interested to speaking, but thank you for chiming in, Rita. I love when you show up. Last week we had Rita's professional partner, Tamara Gerwin, who healed from CRPS, did some work with Howard Schubiner, wrote a book called Defying the Verdict. A powerful name. Cool. And then we had someone else on who's in recovery from CRPS after a horrible, horrible accident. So if any of your clients ever want to come on and talk about their story, I mean, the healing is happening while we're talking. This is healing for me, for you, for the listeners. It'll go on YouTube. People have written us and said, I'm healing from this show. And I'm like, oh, thank you, God. Thank you for, you know, like success comes in, reward comes in many different ways. So if anybody ever wants to be on the show, it's like a great therapeutic process.
It is.
I'm honored by it, but number one, but it's not about me, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, in my 20s, you know, if I didn't find, you know, and I had to search these people that healed and hear other people's stories or other people that were healing, I might have not been where I'm at today. So it's so important to hear other people's stories and learn this stuff because it gives people hope, and we all need hope, you know?
Sipora, I want you to answer Sharon's. I know Sharon's working on her mind-body syndrome, and I would love you to answer this.
Can there be trauma without being aware of it? I would say, you know, something that has helped me is learning the polyvagal theory, which is learning about your nervous system and the states of being in sympathetic or the collapse or in a regulated state. You know, so sometimes it's not, trauma is such a loaded word too, right?
Big T can be a big T or little T.
It's a loaded word. And just because, like I tell people, just because you weren't like physically abused or like had like horrific trauma as a child doesn't mean you don't have trauma. Trauma can be like a parent that maybe worked all the time, and as a child you felt alone, or it wasn't a safe place to share feelings in your home, right? So you had to hold stuff in, right? That is a trauma too. Obviously I would say work with a therapist, a good therapist to explore this, and your nervous system states, your history. So that's what I'd probably say to that.
I'm putting up something, and I've shown it before, and I'm going to put it up again on our page. It's called the Edtronic. He's Dr. Edtronic, and he has Rose turned me on to this. It's so phenomenal. Listen to this, Sharon. Okay, he's a doctor, and he wants to show how trauma can be like a penny, and our bodies react to trauma. He has a little baby, and the mother's playing with the baby, and the baby's all happy, and he tells the mother to look away, and come back with a straight face. And you watch the baby freak out. You watch the baby and just freak out, and that's all it takes. He's showing it doesn't have to take much for our system to learn some kind of I just got abandoned. Mm-hmm. And even though she's going to smile again, I had this experience of being abandoned. That was what he was bringing out. It's called Edtronic Still Face. Have you heard of this?
I think I've seen, yes, I've seen it. I've seen it before,
I know, we've shown it a lot. It's unbelievable. And Michael Galinsky will talk about big trauma, little trauma. It doesn't have to be with or without a trauma. And Sharon, we don't have to know about the trauma even. The fact is we're having symptoms. They're mind-body symptoms. The body's expressing some repressed feelings, whether those are coming from a current experience, coming from a past life, coming from a trauma. For some people, it helps us to know. But I don't want people to be attached to that, because that's the control. I got to know, as opposed to I am in the present dealing with something, and I want to have a predictable future, and so I want to heal. And I think it's hard for us because we do want to know. We want black and white, and this is the mind and body, and there are 1,000 shades of gray. And for many of us, there can be black and white, but that's a good question, Sharon. It's a really good question. You're going to the right place. And I know Sharon's been doing some really good work and unfolding and peeling a layer of her onion. And I'm just sending blessings out to the universe. It's not an easy time in our lifetime. When was an easy time? When was it easy? But you know what? It's all perception. Because I have this infographic where there's two little kids winning a race, and the one who won second place, yeah, I won. And the first place is it's all perception. Mm-hmm. So again, don't be hard on yourself. If that's what you need to find, well, then make it your goal and figure it out.
I think, in somatic experiencing, they train us that, you don't even have to go back to those concrete things. I mean, a lot of people, there's a lot of pre-verbal trauma, when we're infants or something happened and we don't remember. The nervous system remembers, though. Our nervous system remembers. So it's just working in the present day with the nervous system,
Good answer. Good answer.
My computer just went to sleep. Oh, okay. Yeah. So it's just working with what's going on right now, right? So you don't have to know all the answers, but it is what's.
Great. Excellent. So if anyone else has any questions, put them on the feed. I can send them to Sipora. Sipora is on the internet. Sipora Weissman. Let me just put your name up again. And you have your page it's more of an information page. It's not like
I have a website, SiporaWeissman.com. I have a social media where I share a lot of stuff. It's Healing with Sipora on like Instagram and Facebook and all that stuff. So
great.
yeah.
Well, then this will be on our YouTube tomorrow. And I always like to say, well, we'll see you again, because we're all on a mission here. We're all together, hand in hand.
Yes,
and I appreciate your time in the middle of your day. I really appreciate it. And thank you so much for being so clear and being so authentic. Really, this is not easy. I mean, to come on and do this and talk about it. And the best is yet to come.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. Thank you. This has been great. It's been fun. Thank you so much.
All the best.
All right.
Take good care. Bye, everybody. God bless.
Bye.
Wait 1 second.